automatically, api, also, sa, he, jignasu, inquisitive, api, even, yogasya, about yoga, shabda brahma, ritualistic principles of scriptures, ativartate, transcends. Translation and purport by His Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. So, by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendental stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Purport. Advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, verse number 7, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalists is explained as follows. Ahobat swapacho togaryan yajjivagre vartate namarubhyam te pustapasche juvasasnurarya brahmanuchurnam granantiyete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your lordship are far, far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas known as Shabda Brahma. Unless, therefore, one is purified, one cannot take to the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadatvisa Padantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Utapata Kamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamcha Sri Rupam Shagarajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. So I think we have been seeing, I think you have also been listening to the chapter 6 and the various forms of yoga, wherein Krishna has clearly mentioned that of all the yogas, of course, the ultimate is the Bhakti Yoga. But why Krishna went into details of particular, each of the shlokas was one of the doubts which Arjuna had. Was that what happens, because his mind was always getting it chanchal, it was always running from here to there, and he was not able to concentrate. And it also happens that sometimes in your spiritual practice you get distracted and you fall down, or you stop. You say that from today I don't find any taste in chanting, so let me not chant. So the question that Arjuna asked was, suppose something like that happens in my life too, that I am completely diverted from the path of spiritual activities that I keep doing. If I get distracted, what happens to my, to me or to my journey in the spiritual journey? So Krishna, therefore, then, he quotes various slokas, and he says that whatever happens in this life and whatever you're doing, again, because you got into Krishna consciousness, is because of the credits that you gain in your spiritual life. Whenever, in your last birth, in your earlier births, that has got accumulated, because that never gets deducted from your, maybe whatever material things you do, that may cause harm, but anything spiritual that you do will always benefit you. It keeps on getting added in your spiritual credit and in your spiritual journey. And that is something which should motivate us to always stick to the path of bhakti that we have decided to follow. I know it is very difficult, it is not easy. And therefore, if you look at this particular verse, what Krishna is saying is that by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, that means the Jiva's previous life, whatever divine consciousness that he had, he automatically then becomes attracted to the yogic principles. And what is a yogic principle? Is that your connection to Krishna. That is what is your, when you become a yogi, you are trying to get connected to Krishna. So the true yogi who has found a way to get connected to Krishna. So yogi or yoga, that practice is not the physical practice that you do, but a yogi is one who, with his spiritual progress, what he is trying to do is trying to see how he can come closer to Krishna. And once he does that, such an inquisitive transcendentalist, that means one who is curious, because the most fundamental thing one needs to have in our journey, spiritual journey, is to be curious, to really understand why we are here in this world, why we go through these ups and downs in our life, why we get all those, happiness, and then we get all this sadness, and we always want to be in a space where we are always happy. Nothing happens, but we are always happy. But that is what, if you come into this world, we have to accept the fact that it is not going to be full of only happiness and happiness and happiness and happiness. That is not what we are here for. And we get kept reminded again and again. You will get happiness for a very short time, and then again you will get into some form of misery. It could be death, disease, any form of inconvenience, which makes you then think, what is this happening to me and why it is happening to me. And therefore, to overcome all these obstacles, which will be many in your life, you are therefore trying to take the shelter of Krishna. And such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. And that is what, it is mentioned here, that don't worry, you may become demotivated in your journey towards Krishna consciousness, but please stick to, your journey, stick to whatever that you're doing, and try to see how you can build up your relationship with Krishna, because that is the only thing which will hold you in good stead. You can get all the wealth in the world, you can get anything that you want, but it could all just, in one single instant, you will suddenly find that everything is gone. And I don't know if you recently saw, there was this, plane crash in India which happened 2 days back, wherein nobody would have realized, because it's one of the safest aircraft in the world, whatever that you can call it, but it was just an instant. One instant before, people were all alive, and the next instant they are gone. And out of that also there was one who miraculously escaped, which is also people can't understand how that is possible. But we who are, following our spiritual journey, the person that, whoever was it, who got saved, he has an opportunity, at least he got an opportunity. He should realize that, not that he escaped, but he has to realize that how life is so unpredictable, that it can change in one instant. So, therefore, please use this time that you have. Don't think that I'm young, I'm only 10 years old, 15 years old. Because there were small kids who were 5 years old who got, who died in this particular crash, which basically shows that the earlier you can get attached to Krishna, or at least you are thinking of following a particular devotional path, the better it is for you. So, why you people are here? It's possibly because of some credits that you have gained in your earlier life, which at some point in time, what has happened is that Krishna has again enabled you and got you connected to this journey of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, just imagine this philosophy, everything has been, it is actually from India somewhere, and you, out of the blue, one day somebody like you or yourself are doing right now, passing books, selling, Gita to people who don't want to read the Gita, because what you felt is maybe you also came to Krishna consciousness because of somebody who was pushing some book like that to you. And then maybe you are at that point in time going through a real low in life where you are not understanding where am I going, what is happening to me, why I'm always disturbed, what is it, maybe you are looking for an answer. And that curiosity, that spark was generated by Krishna because he is within you. It's not like anybody else. He is within you. It's just that you have forgotten him. And because of your previous credits that you have gained in your spiritual journey, this has happened that Krishna has again enabled you, ensured that some devotee came and passed on some book to you, or you listened to some kirtan, or you came to eat some prasadam, which ignited this particular curiosity, and then you came into Krishna consciousness. So this particular verse is nothing but a reassurance for all spiritual aspirants. No effort on the path of yoga is lost. It's ever lost. Whatever impressions from previous lives, it will only propel or ensure that your soul moves forward, even if it seems therefore the progress has been interrupted. It is actually not interrupted. So and one of the words which, if you see, used is yoga abhyasa. It asserts the spiritual practices, which is nothing but the yoga abhyasa which is mentioned in this particular word, performed in previous lives, they are never lost. Even if you as a practitioner gets diverted or unable to complete the path, which you shouldn't be, just because I'm telling you it happens, but don't get demotivated by it. You, because you're young, you have just come into this journey, it is quite possible that, even at the stage that I am in life, even I can get distracted because material, the things which around happens, though you are wanting to get away from it, lot of times it could happen because internally somewhere or the other, you always take the easy way out, which is going towards material pursuits. Because that is very apparent, easy to see. What is difficult to see or, understand is the spiritual journey that you have undertaken, which is the most difficult part, which is, as you say, you begin with chanting and, you try to keep on improving your consciousness by chanting properly, which you find there, as simple a thing as chanting, you find you face obstacles in your journey. That is something which you have to therefore get motivated by what? The fact that Krishna has mentioned, don't worry, you are doing the most hardest thing, which is basically trying to connect to me, and whatever you do to get to connect to me will be added to your progress in your spiritual journey, even if you somehow or the other stop it or you have obstacles in your path. The more you persist in this journey, the more Krishna will enable you and ensure that so many births have passed, still you kept on coming again and again, and in your next journey also it will be ensured that all these impressions will remain, and it will manifest as a natural inclination towards spiritual life in future births. So you will automatically, naturally, will get attracted to this particular journey. Why I'm saying that, as I said, my own personal realization is that I, sometime around 13, 14 years old, though I've been born in a family in India, and my name is also actually Krishna's name, and I've always been exposed to, various temples and Krishna time and again. But somewhere around when I was young, I got this question in my mind: why am I here? That question. I mean, there was no need to get that question. Is it just to get married, have kids, and then die? What is it? What is the reason for this? Can't be as simple as that, But that question kept on coming into my mind, which was something for me, now looking at in retrospect, because that is what is the first thing that you need to do, is to be curious about why you are here in this world. But why at such a young age I got this feeling, I don't know. But in spite of that, I never got connected to Krishna. It was just through one of my friends who, when I was in my college doing my engineering, so one of my school friends who always used to be with me, he had got connected to the Juhu temple and was doing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and all that, but we were not very close. So he tried to ensure that all his other friends, other than me, should be taken to the Juhu temple. He never invited me, but he told that whenever you have any problems, please chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So unknowingly, if I never used to get any sleep or anything like that, I used to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in a way, I got connected to Krishna, but it was just that I was chanting whenever there was a need for me to chant that. And so even after doing all of that, it was never that I actually got connected to ISKCON. Only when I had come back to, I was in Germany that time, there was Simhachalam temple even that time, but I had gone once during Janmashtami. One of my friends took me to the Golokdham temple, but it was more like attending some function and coming back. Similarly, I had gone to the Heidelberg temple also, and I could never understand what this Narsingh people are doing and what is the Gaura Arti and all. There was no clue. But in a way, I see that, Krishna was slowly guiding me towards him. And that is possibly because of some things in my earlier birth wherein I got some spiritual credit. It is just that the amount of credit that one has, if it is a lot, then immediately as soon as you're born in a devotee family, so that you're immediately connected to Krishna. Otherwise, it will take its time. And therefore, I think possibly when I was around 40 years old or 45 years old, that was when I actually full time, got really connected to ISKCON in my journey. Because what possibly ISKCON does, though in spite of the fact that, I have been going to temples and otherwise, ISKCON gave me a process of how one should be connected to Krishna. So that process, though it is, in terms of samskaras, I come from what they call as a Brahmana family. I also always had a thread when I was 15 years old. I did my second initiation or whatever they call it from my father. All of that I did, but I was not really following the way one should really follow that. ISKCON basically brought me to understand this process and know the reason of why one is doing what one is doing. Therefore, don't be demotivated by the fact that there are other people, a lot of people who are, at a very young age, small kids are doing it. You come later in life and you find it very, very difficult for yourself to follow this path. So don't be, demotivated by it, because this is described as being drawn towards God even against their will. This emphasizing the irresistible pull of accumulated spiritual merit. So this is nothing but an irresistible pull from Krishna because of whatever that you did in your previous birth. And if you see in the Bhagavatam, Srimad-Bhagavatam chapter 6, Canto 6, chapter 2, verse 46 states, Na sankyam dharma na cha yoga, na tapaha na jnanam na vapi adhikaraha, na cha tyago na vanyo apishu bhakriya, krita punya punjaha bhaktim labhate paurusham prapyate hi. This particular verse, again, highlights that, even in Srimad-Bhagavatam, if you see it, highlights that by the accumulation of pious activities and devotional service over many lifetimes, does one attain pure bhakti, paralleling the Gita's assurance that spiritual advancement is cumulative and never lost. So, Other than Krishna having said it, again, if you look at Srimad-Bhagavatam, it also mentions this particular aspect. And one should transcend ritualism, which is what's called as Shabda Brahma Ativartate. You see, in this, it is mentioned. It refers to the ritualistic principles and fruitive activities that are prescribed in the Vedas. The verse declares that even a little inquiry into yoga, which means little spiritual practice that you do, enables one to transcend these external rituals and move towards the essence of spiritual realization. So the particular practitioner, which is you, the jiva, is not bound by mere externalities, but is propelled by an inner urge towards the absolute. Until and unless you don't get that inner urge, which you can, feel, and you can also see that a lot of rich people, they will say that I have all the money in the world, but internally I am feeling unhappy. I am not happy. I am not satisfied. This is that inner urge which gives you that feeling of emptiness. And that is where, because Krishna is within you, and because of the fact that over your millions of lifetime, your complete mind has been covered by this dust of ignorance, Krishna, even though he is trying to, get you into the spiritual mode, you are not able to transcend that. And as it's mentioned about ritualistic activities, as I mentioned, I used to go to the temples, do all the aartis and all that. But the sense behind that was not very apparent to me. Why I should, even I used to question what is the use of, having, doing idol worship and things like that. Because I never understood the concept of that pran pratishtha, where the deity is actually inside, those idols. So until unless you don't consider that person or that being a part of Krishna, you will not be able to trust yourself into getting connected to Krishna, to bring that love. And why are we, trying to read the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita and all that? It is to build up that love for Krishna. By actually reading it again and again, understanding the various activities of Krishna and what Krishna does, you are trying to bring in that love for Krishna. Most of the people say that, this person has the fear of God. So, so he will not do anything wrong. But if you try to force somebody with fear to get attracted to you, you will not, that will not work. So any religion which tries to put fear into your mind will never be able to hold you. Just because you're scared, you're doing certain practices is not a right method to follow spirituality. Whereas here, what we are trying to do is trying to bring love, because we know love is the one feeling which will always bind or ensure that you follow somebody. Unfortunately, what has happened is, because you feel Krishna is so far away, because you have not seen Krishna, you doing all of these activities, you feel, how can I bring that love for Krishna, so that whatever happens, I take that extra effort to please Krishna. It is just by reading this Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and then understanding what Arjuna went through. As a common man, though he is a very big devotee, he is already realized, but he is trying to, in this position, show to us as a common man of all the things that can happen in our day-to-day life. If you actually therefore relate to the different verses of the Bhagavad Gita, it basically is very, very practical. You can see it day in and day out. And if Arjuna says, my mind is something which keeps on jumping from one point to the other, it is a fact, that we have to accept, because it is happening to us. It is not something different. So even Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Leela 22.107, it echoes the same aspect. Is Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhu Naya Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Udaya. So it means that love for Krishna is eternally present within the heart of every living entity. It is only awakened by the process of hearing and chanting, not by ritualistic or mechanical practices. And even if you see the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it explains that the word riyate means attracted. The practitioner is drawn to yoga, he becomes inquisitive and surpasses the path of fruitive action, which is sakama karma, described in the Vedas, and remaining on the path of yoga. So it is like a spiritual bank balance. So now we'll go to the next verse, which is verse 45. Prayatnadya Prayatnadyatamaanastu yogi shanshudda kilbishaha aneka janma sansiddhas tato yeti param gatim. So, the translation of that is, and when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport. A person born in a particular righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorite conditions for executing yoga process. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.28. Yesham tva anantagaram papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. After many, many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental loving services of the Lord. So if you see here, verse 45 is nothing but an extension of 46, which basically says, it says that when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So you may be wondering, why should I, really do this if you have to take so many births to come to a particular level of perfection? Doesn't matter, You are the one in need, It is not Krishna who is in need. You are the one who is in need of trying to ensure, knowing that if you are going to keep on coming again and again into this material world and keep on trying to enjoy or trying to go after material pursuits, you will again, and knowing that that doesn't give you any happiness, you will again keep on, coming again and again into this world. If you are a realized person, at least you have understood that what is the reason for you coming into this world is first to be curious, first to understand why you are in this world, and realize that you are in this world because you have completely gone away from Krishna. You are therefore trying to use whatever time you have in every birth of yours to see how you can get connected to Krishna. And Krishna is also ensuring that even if you have taken 100 births, in every birth you are being given an opportunity to get connected to Krishna. Just imagine those people who do all kinds of murders and thieves, and they are or there are animals, they have come to that level. They have to start from much, much below. You therefore are fortunate, firstly, that you are born as a human being. Secondly, you also, because of your whatever spiritual credits you had, maybe you came in late into this journey, but you at least came into this, and now you are one of those persons who have started chanting, and you have again embarked in your spiritual journey, and you have therefore, whatever credits you had come to certain level in your last birth. In this particular world now, you have been again enabled so that you can make progress in your journey. So therefore, with this message, Krishna is saying that please do this, because you're only going to benefit from it. Whatever other things that you do, it will again take you back and back into this miserable world. And therefore, the path of perseverance and purification, this particular path that you have, what is perseverance? Is your ability to keep on being after one particular path, which is the spiritual path. You should be very stubborn about it. whatever happens, whatever distractions happen, whatever demotivations you have, you should forget about all that. Think about this particular verses, because it is, you accumulate wealth, maybe you maybe become a millionaire, but when you spend that, that will not give you happiness. But here, when you do, instead of trying to gain money, you're trying to gain spiritual credit. That is always going to help you in your journey forward, and ensure that you will come to a particular stage when you are possibly 100% realized and you attain Krishna's lotus feet. This is something which you need to do. So it says that continuing from the previous verses, emphasizing that the yogi who persists with prayatna, meaning great effort, and yatamana, endeavor, becomes samshuddha kilbisha, purified of all sins and material desires over many births. Unfortunately, this process is gradual. It is not like fast and accumulative. So you have to keep on slowly getting accumulated. Samsiddhi. Its perfection is called samsiddhi. It's not a one life achievement for most. So you cannot achieve just in one life this particular samsiddhi or perfection, but the fruit of sustained practice and purification over aneka janma, meaning many births. So this is nothing but you will have to keep on doing over many births to achieve the supreme goal, which is Paramgati. In Paramgati refers to the highest destination, interpreted in ISKCON as the attainment of Krishna consciousness or moksha, liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death, and return to the spiritual world. So that is what, finally we are told in ISKCON, that this is what you need to do so that you can achieve liberation, moksha, and go to Vaikuntha. But it's on the other hand, it is told to us that, we know that it is not possible just today that I can, attain that, because even Krishna is not there today, who, if he even kills us like he did Kamsa, he attains moksha. We are not in that position. We are in Kali Yuga. But the fortunate thing about being in Kali Yuga is that just by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you can achieve Krishna consciousness. Not like the other earlier times when you always have to do all kinds of austerities and rituals. You have to do very minimal austerities here. Mostly, if you just with dedication chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it will slowly bring you, or ensure that you get progress in this world. So the yogi who has purified his heart through persistent practice ultimately realizes the self and the supreme, culminating in eternal association with Krishna. And Krishna highlights that prayatnat, assiduous, sincere effort. That means sincere effort, as you take, are the essential ingredients that transforms previous spiritual impressions into perfection. So the more you keep on doing it, the more you'll slowly, become perfect, or come closer and closer to Krishna. And in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 20, verse 29 and 30 ensures that the Bhagavatam ensures that even if one is not perfect in a single life, sincere effort ensures continued progress in subsequent births, echoing the Gita's message. So don't worry, please be motivated, keep slowly following this whole thing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has said, he was the one who gave us the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He has taught that bhakti is the culmination of all yogic and spiritual practices. And it's also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in case you get to read that, the Madhya Lila states that pure love for Krishna is awakened by sincere devotional practices, and that this awakening is the ultimate perfection which is sought by yogis through many births. So you have to keep on, therefore, practice this, follow it, and you will, once you are good in your sadhana, especially japa, kirtana and service, trusting that every sincere effort, no matter how small, it will bring you closer to the supreme goal, even if the perfection is not immediately attained. So don't get demotivated by it. Please keep on at it and please follow it diligently. So that is something which is mentioned. So the verse 46 will go, which is actually the verse which I was supposed to do, but because of whatever reasons, the earlier two verses were not done, so I've covered. Tapasvibhyo diko yogi jnanabhyo jnanibhyo api mato dikha karmibhya chadiko yogi tasmat yogi bhava arjunaha. Translation says, a yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. Purport. When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called Karma Yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Jnana Yoga. And when it is predominantly in a devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, that is what we do, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas. As in the next verse, whoever does it, it will be explained more. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but He has not mentioned that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge and therefore nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga. And this is, of course, it will be taught to you in detail in the next verse. So what finally Krishna is telling you is that do whatever you want. There are many people following various different paths, but you try to follow what is actually in a way the easiest is Bhakti Yoga. That means to try to see how you can bring in devotional service, get closer to Krishna by doing all these activities that we mentioned right now, is that you do your sadhana, you do your chanting, or do your service, and see how you can keep on always your mind engaged in Krishna. Easier said than done, as I said, because when you are engaged in your material life with all the things happening around, you automatically get attracted to those things. Whereas hardest path, though seemingly simple, is to do chanting with dedication. Ascetics, they engage in severe austerities, all those sadhus and all that. They do a lot of tapas to control the senses, because all of them are trying to control the senses, and often remain fixated on renunciation as an end in itself. But the yogi is not like that. He transcends this or mere physical discipline by attaining union with the divine. So that's what we are trying to do. Not even like Jnani, who is inquisitive, in looking at from an intellectual angle, trying to find out what is it, that, how do I say, will bring some realization about what God is all about. So he's looking for those kinds of formulas. Whereas a Bhakti Yogi is completely engrossed and he's completely full of trust. He has faith in his journey that he will finally attain his love for Krishna. What we are trying to seek here in our day-to-day life is nothing but, as I said, when you read the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad-Bhagavatam, is trying to bring that love for Krishna within you. That is the most difficult part. How can you create that love? Because you possibly have love for your parents, your sister, your wife, girlfriend, whatever. That love you are able to understand. But can you bring that similar kind of love, in whatever form they call it? Vatsalya is the love to your parents, or the other kind of, for friends, that love you have, for your girlfriend, the love you have. Can you bring that kind of love for Krishna? Is the question that one needs to ask. This is the process. Look at other people who are doing it, how they have achieved it. We have, in this particular Kali Yuga itself, when Chaitanya Prabhu, Mahaprabhu came, you have example of Prabhupada itself, not far, not less than 100 years that he was also there. So when he has followed, when he has shown the path, so we should therefore also take the efforts to have faith in this particular process and follow it with all our heart. So with that, I would like to end this particular lecture. Thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, please let me know. Sure. You are taking the mic long back. I thought to ask a question, is it?
We, with Luca, wrote these verses before the lecture, and we get some questions. So when we tried to speak, so what we understood, and so if I want to ask if we we also wrote the verses after. There we find this that all the yogis is actually for somebody practices other yogis to understand that bhakti yoga is the purest, so our tzil to practice the bhakti yoga. And also we wrote here that we have these points about you spoke that we practiced already. And so the question, do we have already this, did we practice these yogis already in the past lives? So everybody from us must to practice this yogi before he starts to practice bhakti yoga. Is it necessary, or is it not necessary?
No, I don't think so. As I said, everybody has a path. You may wonder, some people are born as Christians, some people are born as Muslims. So there are various people born, and you must be thinking, how come, if Krishna consciousness is the right path, how come they are born in that and they don't understand it? Whereas you, as you said, maybe you are following Christianity as a religion, but how come then you came into this particular journey of Krishna consciousness? Particular yogi, this is probably at that particular time when Krishna was actually talking about the Gita. It is from an Indian context, if you see, we are used to somebody being a yogi, or an ascetic, or, following certain strict rules by renouncing everything and going and, living in the Himalayas or in the mountains there and trying to achieve certain goals. That is something which we are very used to it in India from an Indian perspective when you look at it. So what in this particular set of verses is mentioned that you possibly, in one of lot of your previous births, you were somehow or the other connected to Krishna in some manner, where you had already started asking those questions. Maybe not you were a kind of a yogi who had practiced certain austerities. No, maybe not. But even if you had done some small kind of spiritual activity, that got credited to your journey when you came into this birth now. In your initial years, you never knew what Krishna was. Did you? No. You were following something completely different. But something happened along the way where you suddenly got connected. That is because of what you did in your previous birth, is what is being mentioned here. That don't get disheartened. You were born possibly as a Christian. Same thing happened with Haridas Thakur. If you see Haridas Thakur, he was a Muslim. Ideally speaking, if you look at Muslim religion and whatever is happening right now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have no way that he could have bought him and told him to chant the Mahamantra. But he was, such a realized soul, though he was born as a Muslim, maybe he was born in some other kind of, lower strata, still he was much, much ahead of a Vaishnava. 300,000, he used to do 300,000 rounds, not rounds, 300,000 Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he used to do it daily. So therefore he is, so don't get disheartened by the fact that, maybe you will be born as a Muslim or whatever, and you could suddenly speed up to come to the level of a Haridas Thakur who was born as a Muslim. It didn't matter that he was, not a yogi. So that is something which you should get motivated by. I hope I've been able to answer your question, whatever question that you had.
Yes, thank you. I was born in a Krishna family, Hare Krishna family.
Oh, very good. So you are, therefore all those credits came here. So that's something which, one should appreciate.
I don't know if we have time, maybe very shortly.
Yeah.
We also did not understood in the first verse what's mean ritual principles. There is that yogis are above ritual principles, and we actually did not understood what this mean, ritual principles.
So when you say rituals, a lot of people, for example, as I said, I come from India, a lot of people, they do certain activities like deity worship and all with a completely they will always ensure that on a particular festival they have to do certain things, So these are called rituals. They have no meaning if it finally is not going to lead to your connection to Krishna. It is just nothing but doing certain activities for the sake of doing it. Because it is mentioned that these practices, ritualistic practices, have to be done. These are called ritualistic practices. So you please don't follow that. A yogi is one who he's doing a particular ritual or particular practice, like for example, Prabhuji does a deity worship. That is a different purpose. He is trying to please Krishna there. His goal is completely different. When you go to a temple, a lot of people go and say that, please ensure that I pass in my exams, or I should get 100,000 euros. If that is your goal, then you are not achieving anything. Your goal is to, when you go in front of Krishna, tell him that, please ensure that, my love for you increases, because I am looking at you and I have to have that affection and connection to you. For that, when you, do a deity worship, you are getting to spend that much more time with Krishna. That is the way you have to look at it. When you're standing outside and you're just seeing that, you're just maybe looking momentarily. But when you're doing these sevas of deity worship with the whole purpose of, getting connected to Krishna, Krishna will enable you there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.